Alrighty. Hey everybody, Kellen here from SkilledHub.com. In this video today, I'd like to go through budget. And when looking at budget, we're going to talk about budgets for all kinds of renovation projects. Big and small, we're going to talk about them all. The other big thing is, when talking about budget, $100 here, $100 there can quickly add up to thousands of dollars later. So in this video today, we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen. So stick around and check it out. Alrighty, so you want to do a renovation. Let's look at the budget for that renovation. Budget's a big thing, especially when considering to do some of the work yourself, hire contractors, the cost of materials, where the money is going to come from. Budget is big. It's important to make sure that you understand the budget from the outset of the job, as well as updating and reviewing your budget throughout the renovation. So, to start off, thinking about budget, what do you want to do? What is your renovation project? Figuring out that idea right now is so important. Again, some people run into it saying, I want to do everything. I'm going to renovate this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to paint this, I'm going to change those, I'm going to buy brand new. It can get costly real fast. So ensuring you have a good idea of what you want to do is really important. So, when figuring out what you want to do, there's a couple different ways to look at it. Number one is creating a wish list. What are the things that you want to have around your house? What are some of the improvements or changes you want to have around your business, your home, your property, those types of things? Putting together a massive list is a great idea because then that'll help you kind of narrow down some of the renovation projects you'd like to do. And again, you don't have to tackle all of them at once, but putting together this wish list will give you a good idea of what are some of the things you want to do. Another way is maybe going throughout the house and identifying certain things that need to get done, that need to be maintained, that need to be changed for a variety of reasons. So from a maintenance perspective, maybe you have to change the windows because your electrical bill is too high. Maybe you need to change your doors because there's been some damage to them. Looking at those types of things, the roof, potentially your furnace, your HVAC system, those types of things are things to look at. And that's more from the maintenance side of things. So looking at those types of things is more maintenance. So ensuring you have those down first is important because those are going to have to get done at some point. So let's make sure we have a list of those. And maybe you want to tackle a few of these things now, and then we'll move on to the next area. The other area that's categorized is sometimes improvements. So looking at making a space bigger, adding a bathroom, adding a bedroom, families getting bigger, people are moving in, need to add a few other things. So that's looking to improve your home, improve your space to meet something. The next big thing, another category, is looking at personalizing the space. So this is maybe where you've always wanted to have this. It may not necessarily provide value to the home, but it's more of you need this because this is your forever home. I'm going to personalize it to meet my needs. So that's how some people categorize as well. So they create a wish list in one example, and the other example is creating something where they can identify different categories of things that need to be done, need to be maintained, things that need to improve the space due to maybe the family's growing, need to add another bedroom, another bathroom. The other thing would be also to improve the kitchen because, again, it needs to get bigger or it's not working properly. Then the next thing is personalizing the space to meet your needs. Again, when people look at renovations and a budget, it's not necessarily true that every dollar you put in your house, you're going to get back when you sell that house. So again, looking at that is also a very important thing. And that's where I brought in kind of the personalizing of the space. Some things that you may really want, others may not. Just depends. And again, looking at that from an investment standpoint can sometimes go down the wrong road. So ensure that you're wanting to take a project on and do a renovation doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get all that money back. So again, something to think about at the onset of, and also to consider when you're deciding of what you want to do. So again, setting out what you want to do first off as part of this budget is really important. The next thing is, creating that budget and sticking to it. Now, I say that because it's so easy to have a budget, to set a budget number. I'm going to have $10,000 to do this renovation project on. But sticking to that can get really challenging, especially if there's something that comes up and you really want to do it. It's so important, again, to stick to your budget that you set out. Unless you have a little bit extra to spend. But again, making sure we have a contingency in place is important. But that's so important, is sticking to your budget. Once you've set it, once you've figured out what you want to do, it's sticking to that budget and moving forward. Of course, you can make changes along the way, but it's really important to understand what the costs of those changes are going to be. So, now we've figured out what we want to do for our renovation project. I've identified certain things that need to get done, that I want to get done, that are going to personalize my space. I've identified them. Great. Now let's get some costing, because I don't know what half it's going to cost, and it's really important to understand what it's going to cost before moving forward on that project. So, do some research. Look at different websites. There's lots of great information out there that talks about some average costing of home renovations, from kitchens to bathrooms. On SkilledHub's website, we have a costing guide for some of those items, but definitely take a look at all the information out there to wrap your head around what things cost. I'm sure in many cases, and from hearing it from many of our contractors, sometimes they provide quotes to people and the homeowners are like, oh my goodness, how does it cost this much money? This is no way. I'm gonna do it myself and it's gonna be way cheaper. When in fact, they start going down the road, start analyzing those costs, and truly I understand that the cost that the contractor gave them was very competitive and very fair. Just imagine you having to take time off work. So you're not working anymore, you're having to take time off work to do this project. So you're not making any money. The next piece of that is you may not have the skills and knowledge, so you may have to do a lot more research and take more time up. You don't have a big truck to transport a lot of these items, so how do you do that as well? So again, really looking at costing and having a good idea of what these projects cost is really essential to setting up a budget and an idea of what you're going to spend on different projects. Because how can you set up a budget if you have no idea what it's going to cost? So again, doing some research, understanding what certain projects cost. And again, going back to doing the research, feel free to contact a few friends or family members that may have had some of that work done before. You can always contact a contractor as well to get a ballpark figure. Okay, I want to renovate a space, or I want to add this, or I want to do this. What's a ballpark figure? As long as you give them some ideas, they may be able to steer you down a road. Again, it's not going to be a final price, but it'll maybe give you an idea of, okay, do I have enough money to even undertake a project of this caliber? And again, take your wish list. Take your list of items that you want to have done, either improve, maintain, or personalize. Make sure you get those lists and get costing to each one of them, because then that'll help you figure out, okay, I have $10,000 now, and with that $10,000 I can do X, Y, and Z, because now you have your lists, you put costs to those lists, and you have a good idea of where you want to go. So that's really important. So again, figuring out what you want to do, doing some research to figure out the costing. Really important steps. So now that we have costing in mind, we have a good idea of what things are going to cost. But how are we going to pay for it? Well, there's a variety of options out there. Again, you can look at savings if you have savings. Then you can basically pay for the project using your savings, potentially use the savings to pay the down payment for, and then you're going to do pay as you go. As you work, you're going to take some money every time you get a paycheck to pay for the project. Another way is financing, a very common way, maybe using your line of credit, a home line of credit. Financial institutions have a variety of different products available for homeowners, for anyone looking to undertake a renovation. Make sure you go in and have a good chat with them. Contact your financial representative as well to have that discussion. So one thing to consider is, again, that a lot of homeowners forget about is not necessarily every dollar you put into that renovation you're going to realize when you sell your home. Something to really consider, because then you don't pour a lot of money in thinking you're going to get it all back when you sell your home, because not every renovation adds value to your home. Definitely something to consider. And I mean, unless you have a money tree in your backyard, and please in the comments below, let us know how you did that, because I'm sure our viewers, I definitely want to know how you grow a money tree in your backyard. But making sure you understand for your budget where the money's coming from is so important. Is it coming from savings? Is it going to be pay as you go? Are you looking at financing the project? Again, going to speak with a representative, a financial representative, is really important, because there's lots of things out there and lots of ways to pay for these projects. The worst thing to do is to put potentially things on very high interest credit cards, which we've heard from homeowners can be really, really tough. So again, something to consider, maybe for some of the short term, but there might be some other options available to you. Again, everybody's situation is different, but really explore all the options available. So from savings to financing and looking at those lines of credit and reaching out to different financial institutions to understand what products they have out there. So now we have an idea of what we're doing. We've gone through the costing. We have a good idea of what it's going to cost. We figured out where the money's coming from. Now it's important to make sure that we can stick to that budget and ensure that we don't overspend. So creating a budget template, a budget sheet, a budget book, a budget spreadsheet, all kinds of great resources and tools out there to make sure that you can track all of your expenses and ensure that you still have money left over to pay for the project. Again, as I said at the very, very beginning of this video, a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there can really add up at the end of the day. At the end of the day, especially at the size of the scope of your project. $100 tomorrow, $100 the next day can really add up at the end of the day. So making sure that you stick to your budget. Again, you can change it. You can update as you go. Maybe there's things that you find out that are really important to look at. Very important just to make sure that you do update your budget document and make sure that you're tracking everything so you don't end up out of pocket and have no way to finish the expenses on the job. Again, job can get stopped, job can get delayed, may never start again. So it's important to make sure that you keep track of all expenses. Ensure you're talking with your contractor if expenses have changed. Product prices can change. It's a thing that happens. Demand and supply. So making sure that you understand that the original costing that your contractor gave you is still valid. If anything does change, the contractor should be in constant communication with you. But it's also your responsibility to ensure you're talking with your contractor. So again, it's important. You're spending money, and depending on the scope of the project, it could be a lot of money. So really being active and having those conversations with your contractor is really important, especially when tracking those expenses and tracking and making sure that you'll have money to pay the contractor to do those things. But also, if you're doing the job yourself, it's really important to track those expenses. I know I've been hearing from a few contractors that are building brand new homes for homeowners. And, it's definitely a big expense, especially if some of these homeowners have just sold a home somewhere else and are only using the budget that they had based on that sale. So they have a limited amount of money they have to stick to. So ensuring that everything is tracked is so important. It's also really important because then you can look at it at the end of the day and say, okay, maybe I will have some more money because I have savings here. So maybe we can get that premium version or that better version or the one version that was a little bit more money for a different part of the project. So again, having that close eye on dollars and expenses, where they're going and out the door, and making sure you can keep track of everything can really help in the end, especially if you have a little bit left over. Now, that being said, when we're creating our budget, contingencies are so important. Things get delayed. As I mentioned just recently, things can go from a low price to a high price very quick, depending on what's happening, depending on supply and demand. So ensuring you have a contingency there will make sure that your project will finish. And hopefully, you will never have to use it, but it's important to have a contingency there. On average, people are saying, and from speaking with contractors, anywhere between 10 to 20% is probably a good contingency. 20% of the total project cost is what I'm saying. So anywhere between 10 to 20% of the total project cost is a good idea to have a contingency, especially due to the scope of the project. If there's lots of things, lots of moving parts, again, things can get delayed, expenses can increase, product values can go up. It happens. So that's it for the budget video. Just to recap, looking at number one, when looking at budget, is understanding what you want to do. Creating that wish list, creating that wants, needs, improvement, maintenance. Is it a personalized expense you want to do for a project? Having that number one, understanding what you want to do for number one. Number two is looking at getting some costing. What are some ballpark figures for some of these projects you want to do? Again, with that wish list, put a cost to each one of those things. And same for the other list, put a cost to each one of those things because maybe you can do multiple things. And again, not taking on too big a project, especially if you're having concerns around the money, is also a very important thing. So that's why figuring out the ballpark figure of some of these costing can really help you with setting a budget. The next thing is, where's the money coming from? Savings, financing. You don't have that money tree, so where are you going to get the money from? And number 4 is really creating something that you can track all of your expenses and follow your budget along. And starting that before you've started the project is really good because it's something you can refer back to every time you have a new expense, every time, even as you're getting closer to the end of the project, you may have a little bit more money left. You can do that little bit extra or potentially buy that premium product that you were looking to buy, but it was just too much money. It's important to track all of your expenses. So create a budget tracking sheet of some sort, Excel, a booklet, a file, a chart even. Create something that people can look, you can refer back to and update throughout the process. It was funny talking with some other homeowners. They've actually made it a part of their whole home where all of their family members can see this chart and see how it's progressing and where the money is. And then they had some special items. So if we only spend this much money in it, we can get this special item. So make it a big fun thing. Why not? Get the whole family involved. And then number 5 is contingency. Again, having that 10 or 20% saved up just in case things happen. Things can happen. They do happen. So making sure that you're prepared in case they do is so important. And again, if you have it left over at the end, that's a plus. You could buy that premium product, that extra something to make your project that much better. So that's our budget video. Thanks so much. If you like this video, like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, and good luck with your project.